Today, we're diving into the intriguing comparison between TCU's standout Quinton Johnston and Clemson's emerging talent in Beaux Collins. Stay tuned as we look at their stats, playing styles, and Clemson's potential this season. But before we do, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all of my exclusive Clemson content I put out every single week. College football is back, and I am excited to get back in the mix with you, creating more YouTube videos as we navigate through the 2023 season. One of the things I wanted to remind you all of is that if you're already subscribed, you probably already know this, but if you haven't or you haven't watched in a couple of weeks, I will be starting my live show on Tuesday nights. So I was doing Thursday nights for the past, 3 years or so, but because of some conflicts on the radio station, I moved over to Tuesday nights, 105.5 FM The Roar and 97.5 FM in Spartanburg. So make sure you tune in Tuesday night, 7 p.m. right after Walt Deptula. And I actually get 2 hours this year. So 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Again, Tuesday night. I'm going to do my best to try to live stream it. You know how it goes when I try to, actually do techie stuff. I feel like I'm actually a pretty techie person, honestly, but things always go wrong when I try to live stream the radio. But I will try and make sure to get you some content out as well. I have some producers that have joined me to help with content creation in the background, so hopefully we can get more videos out to you as well. I love the comments and reactions from you, and I need to get more videos out there, so get ready, buckle up, and let's go. So let's get into the actual substance of this video, which is TCU versus Clemson, or at least, the comparison between Clemson's wide receiver group last year, TCU's wide receiver group last year, and Clemson's this year. So what does Garrett Riley have to work with? What might he have lost from TCU? What has he gained? I was curious to look at it and see maybe what the potential was for this Clemson offense, and I wanted to get your thoughts as well. So don't forget, as always, get down in there in the comments and let me know what you think about this topic. So let's take a look at the wide receivers for Garrett Riley that he had in 2022. Really, I could talk about all of them, but I wanted to start off and focus specifically on Quinton Johnston, wide receiver with 60 receptions, over 1,000 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. Young man, 6'4", 215 pounds, drafted in the first round, 21st overall pick by the Los Angeles Chargers, a player who was widely really just picked for being one of the best wide receivers in the class, but up until last year, to me, wasn't really a big standout guy. I mean, I didn't feel like a lot of people were talking about Johnston before last season with TCU under Garrett Riley. So he definitely stood out. Garrett Riley was definitely a big bonus for him in getting him to be a first-round draft pick. Again, he was selected in the first-round draft in the NFL in April, and he was TCU's big, athletic, fast wide receiver who had some struggles dropping the ball, not surprising to some Clemson fans out there about wide receivers struggling with drop balls, but he was heavily targeted in TCU's offense. 24% of the offense's share went to Johnston. So who would be the equivalent for Clemson this season in 2023? That's my big question. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Who would be the equivalent for Clemson this season in 2023? And honestly, I think most fans would probably fight back and forth between saying Beaux Collins and Adam Randall. They're sure to be the number one choices no matter what. So with one going to play on the outside in the boundary, the other playing in the field, both of them outside wide receivers. But I do believe that Beaux Collins is going to play in the field where he'll have more room to work with, while Adam Randall, from what I've seen so far, is more than likely going to play the boundary. And it does seem like TCU, or Clemson now, and Garrett Riley specifically, likes to stick to that and get those players in those roles to where they can get comfortable and consistent in those roles and those parts of the field. I really like that strategy as well. You guys know I'm a big softball fan. I don't like throwing people over from shortstop or third to second base or first base, because when you switch sides of the field, the game comes at you differently. Let's just say it that way, especially with football. So Adam Randall, to me, going to be that boundary guy, which means he's going to be closer to the sideline, again, closer to the boundary. He'll have to win those one-on-one battles. He'll be in tighter areas, and that's where you want somebody that you feel like you're most confident with their physicality and their style of play in winning those one-on-one situations in narrow parts of the field. So I think Adam Randall fits that really well. Now, on the other hand, I think Beaux Collins will need to use the field more to his advantage and get more open space and be able to find separation with the help of having more room to work with. I think it will help him in the upcoming season. So I think that Beaux Collins really has, despite his limited appearances and playing time during, due to injury, I think he's going to have a big impact in 2023. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and pick Beaux Collins will be that equivalent to Quinton Johnston for Clemson. Now, what does that mean, equivalent to? Now, that could be a slippery slope there. And I know a lot of people listening right now are like, Morgan, what in the world are you talking about? Equivalent to Quinton Johnston, first-round draft pick. But hear me out here. Will he have 1,000 yards receiving? Well, if he achieves that, it'll be huge for Clemson. Will he have 6 touchdowns? Well, to be honest with you, it won't be difficult to accomplish for Beaux Collins when you consider what he was able to do in 2022. With only 22 receptions, he had 5 touchdowns. So when you compare that to 60 receptions of Johnston, now I start to think, hey, maybe Beaux Collins does have that opportunity to fill that role. So Quinton Johnston had 3 times more receptions than Beaux Collins. If Beaux Collins plays the entire season, now we could go on a what if rabbit trail, right? But you multiply those stats, it's easy to say that he could have over 1,000 yards receiving, maybe even over 1,100 yards receiving. It's definitely easy to say that he could have over 10 touchdowns. Now, how they end up spreading out the ball, when you look at TCU, nobody had over 6 touchdowns. They had a lot of people with 5, a few with 4, I think a few with 3 and 2. So they did spread the ball around when it came to getting scores in the red zone, in the end zone. But I do feel like if Beaux Collins gets 60 catches, 24% of the offensive production, compared to TCU last year, why couldn't he honestly be a first-round draft pick with potentially better stats than Quinton Johnston? It's kind of wild to say out loud. It depends on how good he is, how that connection is with Cade Klubnik, the quarterback at Clemson, and how well he can stay on the field and keep away from being injured. But to me, there's a possibility there. Now, when I bring this up to my friends, they all say, well, Morgan, you really, I just don't see that big playability from Beaux Collins like I saw with Quinton Johnston. And I get that. Now, when you look at TCU's wide receiver room and their stats from 2022, I mean, they had a few guys with 70-plus yard receptions and many touchdowns, right? So a lot of players were able to go for long receptions where you look at like Tay Barber had a 77-yarder. I think Johnston had a 76-yarder. Darius Davis had an 80-yarder. So last year, TCU had some big-time, massive plays that almost took the whole field, right? Clemson didn't have anything really like that, especially with multiple players doing significant long plays like that. So that's, to me, if Garrett Riley can bring that to Clemson, that is a huge lift in the productivity and the aggressiveness and the ability to keep the defense honest with being able to push those wide receivers so deep and make those big plays. Now, can Beaux Collins have the 76-yarder, the 80-yarder? Well, I mean, last year, if you remember in the South Carolina game, he had a 60-yard, I think 59-yard reception against South Carolina. Now, again, he only had 2 receptions, and he got injured halfway through, and it was a big problem for Clemson, and I think a big problem for him because he was actually showing that he could be a threat on the field against the Gamecocks until, something happened with his wrist, right? So he was able to get a big play, though, and that wasn't with Cade Klubnik. So once again, injuries play a big role for Collins. If you're not on the field, you can't be in sync with your quarterback. If Beaux Collins is not on the field, Cade Klubnik was going to have to turn to other players. You're going to have to move on. You're going to have to move on to Cole Turner, Adam Randall, as we mentioned earlier, at the boundary, and maybe you have to move Adam Randall over, Antonio Williams. perhaps even a true freshman that's being hyped up so much like Tyler Brown. Now, I would be kind of shocked to see someone like Tyler Brown come out and be a #1 wide receiver. I really think that would turn into maybe more of like Adam Randall taking in that spot, or maybe an Antonio Williams taking over that spot. But you got to think Tyler Brown, with all the hype that's around him in fall camp, and then Noble Johnson, another guy who is playing behind him in the roster, would have their opportunities to show what they can do. And really, it's about time for wide receivers to kind of show what they can do. And if those guys that have been there for so long can't show what they can do, then it's time for the freshmen to show us what they can do. But in my opinion, the best case scenario for Beaux Collins is to become the #1 wide receiver for Clemson, make those big time significant plays in 70 yards or more, take advantage of the field position that he is playing and get open, and be a big play threat for the defense to have to pay attention to. All right, so that's what I'm thinking. That's what I predict the most successful scenario for Clemson is. So I'm eager to hear what you have to say. Let me know your thoughts. These are my quick thoughts on Beaux Collins compared to Quinton Johnston, first-round draft pick for TCU. Can Collins match what Johnston achieved last year, this year in 2023? You know what I'm going to say. We got to play the games. Only time will tell. But I'd love to hear your honest opinion on it in the comments. Feel free to share your perspective. And if you haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content.